Thank you. Welcome, and please state your name and address for the record.
Ken Smart, 940 Bartlemy Lane. You know, I'm not going to talk about my valuation. I am going to talk about the city budget and city spending. You know, we live in an uncommon time right now. Unfortunately, an uncommonly poor economy. But the budget that I see the city has presented here does not reflect that. It's a very, very mediocre budget. In the sense, when you see what is happening to home valuations, you see what is happening to jobs. I'm sure everyone in this room has heard what has happened to your largest property taxpayer and the jobs that they're doing. Laying off people and freezing salaries. And yet, what am I seeing in the city budget? Do I see a reduction in spend? I did not even see a proposal for a reduction of spend being considered. The best that we could have hoped for by the city staff is a 0% change in spend. Totally unacceptable in these economic times. It's time for the city government to get real about what is happening in the economy. And, quite frankly, to get real about where the economy is headed, not just for the current time, but where are we going to be 12 months from now? Every projection I've seen in terms of the economy is we will still be in a recession 12 months from now. We need to be making decisions now that also position us for the discussion next year. And you have a responsibility to help the citizens out in this city by reducing spending. If you take a look at your largest property payer, taxpayer, Thram Company, why do you think they're laying off people? Why?
Because they want their profit margin. Yes.
Councilmember Juniman, that is totally inappropriate for you to even make that comment.
No, it's true.
People are losing their jobs, and you're saying it's because they want to maximize their profits.
It is.
No,
That's why they
it
lay
is
people
not.
off. That's why they lay people off.
No, it is not. They lay them off to cut expenses. That is what is happening with private businesses. That's why you hear people talking about their assessments here when they have businesses. That's what you don't get.
It's not true.
It's time for you to wake up and get an education or resign from the council and let somebody represent the city citizens.
You have your opinion.
I assure you, it is not just my opinion.
We've heard from other people.
That's exactly right. This is the arrogance that we are not going to tolerate as citizens anymore. Exactly. It is time for this city to wake up and realize what is happening out there in the community, to your businesses and to your homeowners, and to respond to them. And the time to do that is now. And there are plenty of areas to reduce spending in this city budget. Let's start off with the community center. When this community center was proposed over 15 years ago, it was done with the promise that it would be self-funding. I have yet to see a year in which this community center was self-funding. And if you take a look at the budget this year, what is happening with the community center? We are going to increase spending, and we are reducing the amount of revenue that we expect. That is going in the wrong direction. At some point, the people in the city who run the city have to realize you're not capable of running a community center. Why not sell that community center to a private operator? You'd increase the property tax base and eliminate a city subsidy, which, if I remember, that Mr. O showed to be $300,000 this year. $300,000 that could be saved right there. There's other things that could be done. I heard Mr. All talk about we could postpone some capital purchase equipment, such as a squad car. Why not postpone that? A lot of other people have made decisions to postpone vehicle purchases this year, as our U.S. auto companies can certainly attest to. Why is the city not making those decisions? Why are we adding to the headcount in the city? There's no reason to do that. Why is the city not improving the productivity with the headcount they have? Businesses are not adding people, they're laying people off. And yet somehow the city feels entitled to add people. I heard the hospital, or the ambulance billing being outsourced, which I think is a wise decision. But instead of outsourcing that and taking that as a spend reduction by reducing a headcount, we chose to keep the headcount. Those are decisions you can be making differently. There is plenty of room in this proposed budget to reduce spending. And yet, that was not even put on the table here. I cannot tell you how disappointed I am to see that the staff did not even consider a reduction in spend in the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Rossbach?
What was your last name again?
Smart.
Smart?
Ken Smart, yes.
Okay. Just a couple of comments. And I know, Mr. Smart, that you haven't had the benefit of probably being here during the course of the year as we've gone through the various steps of not only the budget planning, but just what we've done during the course of the past year. I can't help you with that. I'm speaking into the microphone. And so a couple of things that I think that you have incorrect. The community center, when it was built, never came with a promise that it would be a self-financed part of the city. Matter of fact, the anticipation was that it would always need to have a subsidy. And back when that first took place, I was here. I know what it was that was set up by the city. And so that it's an incorrect assumption to think that that was set up thinking that it would eventually become self-sustaining. During the course of the year, there have been numerous jobs that the city has opted not to fill so that we would not be put in a position where we had to lay off staff, but we would work through attrition to lower the number of people in the city, which we have. And we've also combined jobs. So when we have an unfilled position, rather than fill that position, we've taken another staff member and brought them and put them so that they now have essentially two jobs. And so again, we've reduced the need for additional staffing through those steps. We put off equipment purchase after equipment purchase to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to keep our budget in line, not only the upcoming one, but the just during the course of the year last year. We did end up with some extra money during the course of last year, and a lot of it was due to the management of our assets during the course of the year. And so you're absolutely correct that we can make decisions to further reduce spending, but you are incorrect in your assertions that we have not made every effort that we possibly can as we move forward to put ourselves in a position where we are not considering a 10% increase or something like that. We're considering a 6 maximum and probably will end up with much less. And so yes, we can, but then we start getting into also the decision of where do we decide that we are cutting into services to a point where people will think or start complaining about that more so than the fact that they have to pay some money for those services. So several of the things I'm sure that we will discuss as we go on yet tonight will start to cut further into the services that we can provide. And it gets to be then a decision-making process by us as to when we think the citizens will start to yell louder due to the lack of services that we will be providing, things that they're used to having us do, versus the desire of everyone to have their taxes as low as possible.
Mr. Nephew?